Thousands of flights take off and land every single day, and we barely give it a second thought. It's just routine. And on February 18th, 2024, AirSerbia Flight 324 was supposed to be just another one of those. But in just a couple of minutes, a series of really critical mistakes turned a standard flight into an absolutely terrifying fight for survival.
So let's just dive right in. We're going straight to the moment this whole thing went off the rails. And, almost literally.
Just look at this. This is the moment of impact. That is a modern Embraer E190 jet. It should be climbing gracefully into the sky, but instead, it's still on the ground, plowing through runway lights in an antenna array hundreds of meters past where the pavement ends. It's just unbelievable.
So the big question is, how on earth does something like this happen? You've got a professional crew, clear weather, a perfectly good airplane. How do you end up in a situation that should be completely impossible? Well, that's exactly what we're going to break down.
Now, what's so fascinating and frankly scary about this is that this entire chain of events, this whole terrifying sequence, it all started with one single, simple mistake, just minutes before they even pushed the throttles.
Okay, so take a look at this airport diagram with me. The blue line, that's the plan. The crew was supposed to taxi to the runway using intersection D6. But as you can clearly see from that red line, that is not what they did. They turned early, by mistake, and lined up on the runway at intersection D5.
And to really get why that one wrong turn was so incredibly dangerous, you have to know this one key term, TORA. It stands for Takeoff Run Available, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It's how much runway you have to get your plane up to speed and safely into the air.
And this right here, this is the consequence of that wrong turn. All the crew's calculations, their speeds, their power settings, it was all based on having almost 2,400 meters of runway. But by turning at D5, they only had 1,273. They had just cut their available runway almost in half. Over 1,000 meters of pavement they were counting on, gone. It just wasn't there.
So here's the crucial thing. That wrong turn, that was just the first domino. It didn't have to end in disaster. In aviation safety, there's this idea called the Swiss cheese model. The idea that for an accident to happen, a bunch of different layers of safety have to fail all at once. And what happened next was a textbook example of that, just a cascade of errors with so many chances to stop it.
This timeline is just chilling to read. Air traffic control spots the mistake right away and calls them on it. Then they flat out warn them, telling them the exact runway length and saying it's not safe. They even give them an out. They say, hey, just taxi back to D6. But just 27 seconds later, the captain commits and they start their takeoff roll anyway.
And the investigation found the problem started even before they got to the runway. You can see the captain and first officer had different numbers for the plane's weight to begin with, but the really fatal error came in that rushed moment at the runway. The captain, trying to recalculate for the shorter distance, accidentally used the performance data for the runway in the opposite direction, 12R. And that single mistake, that one flawed calculation, gave him this false confidence that everything was okay.
And this really gets to the human side of things. The official report says the first officer succumbed to the pressure of the captain. So despite the blaring red flags, the warnings from air traffic control, the captain's authority just took over. And they pushed those throttles forward without even updating the plane's computers with the new takeoff speeds. It's just staggering.
Okay, so now we're going to see the terrifying result of trying to take off with 1,000 meters less runway than you need. The images you're about to see show the absolutely catastrophic damage this aircraft took and somehow kept flying with.
So as the plane desperately tried to get airborne, it just slammed through the runway approach lights. And this isn't a scratch we're talking about. That is a massive gash, ripped right into the side of the passenger cabin.
And here you can see this huge chunk of the airplane where the wing meets the body is just gone. It's been completely torn away, exposing all the complex machinery and structure that's supposed to be covered.
And get this, look closely. That stuff stuck in the wing, that's not part of the airplane. That is wreckage from an airport antenna that got violently jammed deep inside the leading edge of the wing.
This really puts it into perspective. On the left, that's what a normal instrument landing system antenna looks like. And on the right, that's what was left of the 5-meter-tall steel pole after Flight 324 flew right through it.
And as if all that wasn't bad enough, the impact also ruptured the fuel tank in the left wing. So now think about it. They're in the air in a severely damaged plane trailing a massive cloud of highly flammable jet fuel. The situation had just gone from incredibly bad to catastrophic. But somehow, against all odds, the plane was still flying. The story wasn't over. Now the crew had to deal with this massive emergency and figure out how to get this crippled bird back onto the ground in one piece. So this is their flight path after that disastrous takeoff. They declared an emergency and they just circled for almost an hour, running through checklists, trying to figure out just how bad the damage was. They even did a low pass by the control tower so the controllers could literally look out the window and try to see if their landing gear was okay.
So after everything, the wrong turn, the impact, the massive damage, the fuel leak, what was the human cost? Well, this is the most important and, frankly, the most miraculous number of the whole night. 0. Not a single one of the 106 passengers or 5 crew members was physically hurt.
And this was the scene after they managed a tense but totally successful landing. Emergency crews were right there, and they immediately just soaked the left side of the plane in firefighting foam. A totally crucial move to make sure that leaking fuel didn't catch fire.
And this is why these investigations are so important. This near miss led to real, immediate safety improvements. The airport updated its emergency plans, and they made it mandatory that any Mayday call automatically triggers the highest level of emergency response. It's just a powerful reminder that in aviation, every close call is a lesson that makes the whole system safer for all of us.
So in the end, this is a story about a chain of human errors, of warnings that were ignored. But it's also a story about incredible luck and just how tough these airplanes are built. And it's a powerful reminder that, in the world of aviation, a world built on absolute precision, the smallest details are everything.